So we were exchanging communications during the Tyson fight card, and I reached the land of infinite buffering far, far earlier than you did. And once I hit instant or long-term buffering island, I was stranded there for the rest of the evening. We'll talk a little bit more around how I problem solved that. Philadelphia, apparently, better infrastructure, some things going on. You didn't start buffering until after I mentioned it to you, correct?
Yeah, I feel like you jinxed me.
Good.
No, yeah, the only issue that I had for probably like the first half of the card was during the second match, like shortly into the second fight, Netflix just closed altogether. The app just crashed on my TV, but I was able to get right back in. I didn't have any issues. The buffering didn't start until into the third match when I guess more people were coming on, getting ready for the actual Tyson fight. But so a lot of my friends were having the same issues you are, a lot of my local friends. I think what helped me get that far is because I'm a doctor and this is a doctor's office. This is a commercial property. This is zoned as a commercial building. So I have business internet. So I can technically have something like 150 devices going in here. And the only thing that was going was my TV. So I think I just had all that extra power going towards it. So I think that is mostly what pulled me through.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's awesome that you're zone commercial because then when you open your live factory, you'll be able, you won't have any extra paperwork to do that. You fill out dishonestly, but that's good there. Yeah, so the first time I got bit was during that second. It was right when that second match uh, started to turn good. It stopped being one sided. It was going to go both ways, and it was like right when that exchange started to happen, where it's like, oh, okay, got a fight here. It got super pixelated, and then it started to buffer for a while. Came back for me then. Made it through most of that fight, and then uh, I mean, I would occasionally come in, and then every once in a while, Netflix would come in and say, "Let's check your bandwidth. I think you've got a bandwidth problem." Yeah, yes, you should check your bandwidth. There are maybe too many people watching things in your house. And it's like, and other people were posting that same, "You've got a bandwidth problem," and they were indicating maybe that their fiber optic internet did not have a bandwidth problem or this or that. But after checking unscientifically just with you, unaware you were sitting on top of the Mount Olympus of bandwidth, the I went over to X, and sure enough, I had many people sharing the same problem from there. It was so let's just talk about the event in general. I guess because this will tie into it. I do not think that Netflix was over prepared to deliver a night worth of boxing matches. Your assessment?
No, yeah, same thing. You know that, so I was reading like this is something they want to do, like live sporting events is something that Netflix is pushing towards. They're not there yet. I understand that this was an unusual thing because normally you wouldn't have 60 million people trying to watch one boxing match all at the same time. I understand that. But I think if I'm not mistaken, up until this point, all of Netflix's live events have been like stand-up comedy shows. So I don't think there were 60 million people watching those all at the same time either. So I don't I think this is the first time those limits have been tested, and we can very clearly see that there is a limit that Netflix can take.
Yeah, and even if you set aside the inability to have hardened your infrastructure to handle that, and it's not no small task. I get it. 60 million people crashing in at once. We have that problem with our content as well, and we work our way
Constantly,
through it.
yeah. They
Yeah,
should have asked us what we do.
they should have got a hold of us, talk to us, say how do you guys manage? But they didn't. But just the overall execution, the amount of times the various commentators were like, "So what are we doing next?" They were just like feeling their way through it. The interview with Holyfield when he's the head Lennox Lewis and Holyfield on, and they were interviewing them, and the female commentator on the far end asked a question to Holyfield, and he just continued to stare forward, no acknowledgement that any question had been asked, and whatever. And I was like, how was his last couple fights? Did he really get clocked? Is Evander no longer with us? But eventually it gets determined that it's noisy there, obviously, and his earpiece, he was getting nothing. He had no idea that anybody was even talking to him, and he didn't have the common sense to maybe just look down the table, say, someone's looking at me and their mouth is moving. Maybe that's a question coming my way. So Lennox Lewis took it upon himself to take the question, modify it to his liking, and then ask Evander. And usually every one of his questions was, do you think he's going to bite his ear this time? So Lennox made good use of his time, I think, there. And then as the buffering went on, nothing better than Jerry Jones thanking Netflix for hosting this event at his little palace. And his mic doesn't work. And so you just see Jerry Jones. Okay, so you had deaf and dumb going on there. So those pieces were that. And outside of Rosie Perez, who I'll give props to, knowledgeable in the fight game, which something I didn't expect, but she's solid, I think, in her. I don't know. They had one guy on that was like trying out for a stand-up comedy routine, and it was not good. So I didn't really feel the crew was particularly strong. Obviously, the delivery mechanism wasn't strong. Uh, were you wowed by the delivery of the commentators and such?
No. So, and to be fair, I don't really follow boxing. I've seen boxing matches before, mostly when I was a kid. So my dad's super into anything that vaguely resembles a sport. And I don't mean to put boxing down. I mean, he would probably watch bass fishing or something like that. And he's never fished a day in his life. Just anything that's kind of like a sport is better than anything else in his mind, no matter what it is. So I do remember watching a few boxing matches with him, and I remember it being different. And I'm glad we got to this because I was going to bring this up to you. I don't know how into the boxing world you are, but I remember I feel like compared to boxing matches that I've seen in the past, both as a kid and then just sporadic peppered ones as an adult. But is it just me? Maybe it was just, Jake Paul's company was running this, but this kind of felt like they were trying to get it closer to something like WWE, like more of an entertainment spectacle look to it than I remember boxing being in the past.
Yeah, I think your assessment's right that it had more of a WWE event feel to it than the typical boxing match. Now, the boxer's entrance is there are some that put on a little bit more of a show than others. So the guy that kind of had the crew come out um, in Aztec Barrios in the folks with his heritage there that wouldn't that's on the high end, but you could occasionally see something like that. I don't think I'd ever seen anything with that many costumes and stuff before, but something in the park, usually a couple of your homies with boom boxes and stuff coming down. Some of that could go on. Now, Jake Paul's entrance, which was longer than the fight, with him lip syncing to "In the Air Tonight." Um, I was like, just shoot me. It's just like, and then he's like, it's a super slow drive down to get there, and then he gets to the turn that the car can't make, and then I'm like, oh no, how's Tyson going to get down there? Because that car took like an hour to do that, and I think that's the same path Tyson's got to go down. And he's got to crawl over the car. I didn't know what was going to go on, but we'll get back to Mike's entrance when we talk about that fight. So let's kind of roll through the card as quickly as possible. Super middleweight bout to begin with. Goyat versus Nunez. Goyat is a fighter from India, and it was a 5 round fight. To me, not really even close. Goyat had the experience and the talent and all that, and he treated us to some dry humping as well, which I could have lived without, but I certainly
Well,
didn't think that.
going back to my spectacle assessment of it, like from the introductions and into that first match, where both of them, I would say, were doing a lot of mugging for the camera and trying to get the audience pumped up and stuff. It again put me more in mind of wrestling than boxing, or at least boxing as I had seen it in the past. So up until this point, this was weird, but it seemed on brand for what they were going for.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point because there was a lot of I mean, you'll occasionally get one showboat, maybe two. There were a lot in this, and particularly in this first fight, there was a lot more showboating than real boxing, and so kind of boring. No big suspense on the ending on that. But then we get to Mario Barrios versus Abel Ramos, which ended up to me being, yeah, the next two fights are the best two fights of the night.
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
and what's nice on the Barrios fight was, the fact that Ramos came back because it looked, kind of first 3 rounds, you're like, okay, this guy is the champ. The other guy's kind of a journeyman. Uh, and he was not particularly doing a whole lot. Then all of a sudden, he started to do a lot, and and actually, I think hurt Barrios more than vice versa. But then I think he tired out. The So what was your thought on the heavy and continued reference to make sure we were all aware that these were Mexican fighters?
I felt the same thing during the first match when they were speaking about the one fighter being from India and a little bit about that boxing scene. I feel like, and again, I feel like this goes back to Jake Paul's company being behind this, that they're trying to establish themselves as really an international thing. Like that they're putting on this big spectacle. They're going to bring you fighters from all over. They're going to bring, a, arguably one of the most famous boxers of all time out of retirement to fight, along with these guys who are big in their individual countries and backgrounds and things like that. So I felt like it just played into the whole spectacle of it. But I will say, compared to the first one, while coming out with the Aztec dancers and everything, again, it was still to me very much like, oh, this is a spectacle, this is a show, as much as it is a fight. Once they actually started fighting, even though Barrio was, obviously very much in control of the fight the first couple of rounds, it was clear to me, at least as somebody who doesn't understand this world, those seemed like way more skilled boxers than the first round. Like those guys definitely seemed like a lot more serious, a lot more technical in what they were doing than the first round. And like you said, it became a really great fight when the other guy started to come back halfway through the match.
Yeah, better, definitely more skilled in my opinion, and as the fight wore on, very equally matched, which was great to kind of see. I just um, when a large percentage of the commentary is like, well, Mexicans are like that, and you're just inserting that box, in that sentence on a regular basis. It's like I don't know. I mean, but in fairness, at the end of it, when they were talking to him after the fight, they were like, "Hey, we're both," And to me, this is the best part of the night too, is that they had total respect for each other. He's talking about,
Yeah.
wasn't going to trash talk you, but wasn't. There's no point in trash talking. We're just going to go out put on a show. That's how we do it in Mexico and all that. So they even kind of made reference to it. But to me, they're entitled to do that, and it's kind of perfectly fine for them to make that commentary. But doughy white guy sitting there talking about it, about, well, this is the psyche of the Mexican boxers. Like, shut up, shut up, quit saying that. But that was just me.
And
Um,
I feel like, and we'll get to it as we get there, but I think it's interesting the way the ringside commentary changed in the last two fights as well.
yeah, yeah, definitely, and I think some of that may have been well, at least one of them, the product that they were talking about, um, because you had some kind of serious boxing going. Well, in one of them, you had some serious boxing going on, but see on that. That was a welterweight bout with Barrios. And in case you're wondering, a welter can weigh no more than 147 pounds. So just if you're kind of going through on that. Lightweight, and I'd like to tell you what the weight limit is for professional female boxers, but there's apparently no universal thing, and even the amateur weights didn't match, cut off like a 136, and both fighters weighed in at 137 something. So I'm not sure, but they were called lightweights, so they're lightweights. Maybe they just can't hold their alcohol. Maybe that's how it works in the women's league. I'm not sure,
Well,
but
it's a Jake Paul run event, so that's probably one of the
yeah,
gauges.
it's probably yeah. I get these two lightweights all the fight. Um, and Amanda Serrano um, versus Katie Taylor, otherwise known as the head that punches. As far as I can say. Um, and so this was, I came back and was able to see the very kind of last couple rounds of this fight because as I mentioned, I'm on Buffer Island. I'm not going anywhere. I'm trying everything. Got out an Ethernet cable, tried going through from Ethernet versus Wi-Fi because somebody on X was saying, "Yep, that's the magic trick." When the magic trick for me, things actually got worse at that point in time. My projector actually started to flutter at this point. I'm like, what's going on here? So it was not going well. So then somebody else suggested, well, what you need to do is just get on a VPN and jump to a country whose servers aren't as taxed as the United States. And I was like, well, that's a good idea, but I'm not paying to get VPN software for this fight that might just last moments and all that. So then I began on a quest to say, well, what can I get on my phone? And so several Google searches later, after looking for free VPN software for your phone, pointed me one direction. Downloaded that app, fired it up, and I don't know if I have a different definition of free than they, but it was not. I was going to have to pay. I got it all set up, and it's like, oh, great, you want to start using it? Here you go. You can sign up for a day for this much or for a month. It's like, well, if I'm giving you money, you're not free, even if it was like a
That is
trial.
the opposite of free.
Yeah, it seems like that's at a cost. But so Tunnel Bear is also advertises a free flavor of Tunnel Bear. And so I downloaded that app, got installed, and it actually, there's a, uh, a 2000 meg limit on how much data I could stream for free, but there was a free component to it. I could do something without giving them my credit card. And then super impressive because apparently they've trained bears to dig tunnels super fast based on the map, and the bear will tunnel from originally from uh, the United States up into Canada. That's what I tried first of all, and that was really no better. So then I said, "Oh, let's try Colombia." And so again, that bear is just bad. He's fast. He tunneled on down to Colombia, and voila, I had a good feed. I wasn't pixelated anymore, and so I could kind of see this the last half of the match. Um, and they had talked about these two had fought before. It was a really great fight. Apparently, this one, all of it, I can only talk about what I saw, but I mean, it was a good fight. That they're both, pretty impressive, with the exception of, the Irish fighter. Sure does seem to lead with her head. I know that uh, Stronstein was complaining at the end that that's all she does. That's all she does. But then as I watched it, I'm like, they're kind of right. Looked like to me is that head was always there, which is unfortunate because she got cut, and that certainly probably had some influence. But everybody thought that she had won the fight until the cards came through. It went to the head fist. Head fist won the match, the bout. Um, Did you have strong feelings one way or another which way that fight went before the decision? Did you think they got it right? Do you not agree?
So because I'm not well versed enough, I don't know how much that affects the scoring. But I mean, there was obviously she was so they kept describing it as headbutting for anybody who didn't see it. It wasn't a headbutt in the way I would think of a headbutt, like somebody, reeling back and then hitting you with their head. It's like Kelly said, she was pushing forward head first as she was coming towards her. So inevitably her head would hit the other girl's face. And they did tell her about it multiple times, and she kept doing it. Like obviously that's just what she does. That's her. I don't think she was going out of her way to not listen to them. It seemed more like, and again, having no prior knowledge, it just seemed like that's how she moved in the ring. Like that's how she had trained and that's how she moved. I know that they did dock her a point at one point because of it, because they felt that she wasn't listening to them when they told her to knock it off. So I don't know scoring wise how bad that was, the docking of the point, because with that, like Kelly said, everybody seemed to think there's no way she was going to win after getting docked that point, and then she still did when the final scores came out. um I First off, though, I mean, both of them were great fighters. That was by far the most action-packed fight of the night, by a long shot. Best fight of the night.
Sustained. I think Barrios
Yeah,
and Ramos, there you would get bursts of it. And by the way, I don't think we mentioned that ended up in a draw, which I'm totally okay with because it's like
yeah. That
I
that
give
seemed like a good call.
I give that fight to either one of these guys because they both had done enough to deserve it. So I didn't entirely I didn't have a problem with it. Some people did, as they will, but yeah. So, but yeah, I was a little surprised at it. I didn't have a chance again to see the whole fight because I was discovering Tunnel Bear and doing these other things to eventually get to the point where I could watch the bout. And gosh, I'm so glad I did because of this amazing final bout of the evening. Um, so uh, I was really hoping that there'd be a fatality in this bout and it wouldn't be the old guy that they were hauling off. I was really, really hoping. I mean, and so, I mean, Jake Paul seems like his goal is to have people hate him, and he's so good at it because I hate him a lot. And he, he's piece of work. His entrance was just so pretentious and ridiculous, and have the kind of close up videos of him lip syncing to I've been dreaming for this moment for all my life, him trying to emote emotion. I was just like,
Well, so I
oh,
took all of that as a shot at Tyson.
oh, did you?
Yeah. So the Hangover,
Mm-hmm.
Tyson has his big musical sequence in the Hangover to that song.
Oh, I did not know that. So well, that
Yeah.
could be that too.
So
I
that's how I took that whole. It was like a joke that was kind of funny, but then it went on for like 3 minutes
it was
instead.
yeah, it was the
I was like,
world's
oh, they're playing
slowest
the
car.
Hangover song. I get it. That's funny. And then it's like, oh, they're going to play the whole song while this car goes as fast as I could push it down that down that ramp.
Yeah, it was a mess there. Now, just so beforehand, we got a chance to visit with the introspective Jake Paul in the locker room where he was talking about I'm going to F him up, blah, 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 super, super amazing. I'm the future of boxing, blah, blah, blah. And then they cut to Tyson, who talks a little bit and turns around to give us a nice shot of Mike's backside. So a
That
lingering
was
shot.
yeah, that was weird. So he was being interviewed by his son, which I thought was interesting. And it showed kind of like, so I guess to Jake Paul's credit, obviously it seems like he's trying to set this up like a WWE kind of thing. And he's very much the heel of the match, and that's how he was setting it up. So I mean, his interview is, flashy and him yelling and doing all this stuff. And then cut to Mike Tyson, who's just in the locker room being interviewed by his son. And at the end of it, he tells him he loves him and gives him a hug. And it's meant to be, sentimental. Mike Tyson's obviously the hero here, and we're meant to follow him and root for him. And then he turns around, and it seemed like a mistake. Like they just didn't cut away or turn the camera off, but he was getting ready for the fight. So he just had like a jock strap on. So you see a long, lingering shot of Mike Tyson's ass. And what made it funny was the commentators are like, "Hey, can somebody tell the camera guy to like cut away or to do something?" It's
Yeah,
like everybody sees this. What are you doing?
back to that well-oiled Netflix machine for live
Yeah,
sports broadcasting. Yeah, so that was a thing. But then, so this is when I began to get worried because I am far from a boxing aficionado and an expert, but I have watched a fair number of pay-per-views, and I've watched a fair number of Mike Tyson pay-per-views during particularly his highly successful runs in boxing, and there's a way he walks out where you're like, oh, I'm sure glad I'm not the guy fighting this guy, where there's a menace and an anger and just it's like, it's no pomp, no circumstance, but he's just kind of coming out and you're like, oh boy, that's a facial expression that would scare me a lot. Um, this watching him as he walked out, first of all, it became much more evident to go, oh, this guy's kind of old, So it's not the young Mike Tyson face; it's the old Mike Tyson face. He looks old, um, and he. I wouldn't say it was scared, but he looked like I'm so not looking forward to this. It was just
yeah, that's
it
a
was
hundred
just
percent. I don't know what the right terminology for that would be, but you absolutely nailed it.
yeah. It
Not that he
was
looked scared, but just that he looked like, oh,
this is this is happening, I guess. just
yeah,
just no, not in it, and it just was locked. That expression was just locked on his face all the way through there. I was like, oh, I wanted a little more anger, a little more, but no. And so then the fight starts, and for the first 30 seconds, I'm a happy guy. He tags
yeah.
Jake Paul a couple times. Paul grabs him. It's like, okay, so Jake Paul realizes he's going to get killed if he lets Tyson punch him. So he's going to, uh, just clinch slow and wait, try and tire him out. But that became unnecessary rapidly. So, was your excitement arc about the same of mine as far as it's like, first round? Oh, okay, we're done.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that, like I said, that when Jake Paul came out, again, and if anybody knows any better, obviously leave it in the comments, but I assume that was a reference to the Hangover. That was a big comeback for Mike Tyson appearing in that movie. He's in a famous sequence that involves that song. So that was a big deal for him. So I was assuming they were poking fun at that, but it just went on for way too long. And then Mike Tyson coming out, like Kelly said, I had seen Mike Tyson pay-per-views when I was a kid. I know what it looked like when Mike Tyson came out. That wasn't it. This was the second time this year I watched an old man walk out on stage and go, "Oh, he's going to lose this." The first one was the presidential debate. This is this was the second one. When somebody walked out on stage and you instantly knew how old they were. This was like when Biden walked out. Biden walked out on stage, looked at the stage. There are two podiums, one on either side. They sent him out on the stage with his podium, which is lit up blue, the color of his party, and has a giant picture of his face behind it. And he looked at everybody and went, like he wasn't sure that that was where he was supposed to go. This wasn't that bad, but it was a similar feeling of like, oh, this is an old man who's about to lose this. It's
Yeah,
just like
and
Kelly said, it wasn't fear, but it was like it was almost like he was already exhausted.
yeah. Yeah. It's like this, wow, that ring is pretty far away. It's like
Like, oh man, we couldn't start there. Like they
there's
couldn't just.
steps. Oh man.
Why didn't I ask for a car?
Yeah. How come the young guy got a ride? I could use
Yeah,
at least a golf cart. Come on, get me down
did the
there.
car come back?
Yeah, Tyson's hitching a ride to
And
get
I
down
and here's the thing too. Like if you watch a lot of the weigh in and a lot of the promotional stuff they were doing to hype this up, like Tyson looks amazing for a 60-year-old man. And he could be the most in shape 60-year-old man in the world, but he's still 60 years old, and that still means something. And I think my speaking for myself, and I'm sure a lot of people around the world, I didn't want it to. I wanted, regardless of my feelings about anything else, I wanted to watch Mike Tyson murder Jake Paul. And I was hoping that we collectively as a people could come together and just be cool and not narc on Mike Tyson like we all didn't just see it happen.
Yep. I, what fight? I didn't, there was a
I didn't
fight.
see anything.
I was buffering. I
Yeah.
couldn't see
I
anything.
was just buffering and I don't know what happened.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, but ironically enough, when you kind of draw that analogy between that, for the second half of the fight, Biden threw just as many punches as Tyson did. I think if you go to the punch stat, you'll see
Yeah.
that because so the fight, so some flashes, in fact, probably give Tyson that first round. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that was I wasn't so watching him walk up, I was worried. I was like, oh, yeah, he's 60. Like this is he might be the most in shape 60-year-old, but man, he's 60. And that's twice as old as Jake Paul. And that really matters. And we're about to see that. But then when he did, like you said, I mean, he got a good punch in early. Jake Paul did look a little concerned, like this wasn't gonna go as easily as he thought. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. The first round. I was like, this could be good.
Yeah, and then it was all kind of over from there. And now I mean, to Tyson's credit, he's not going to make excuses and all that. But this was a fight was supposed to happen a while back. He had an
Yeah.
injury, hurt his knee, and so he rehabbed up to there. Apparently, that rehab didn't go great because apparently it was still bothering him some. And Roy Jones Jr., one of the commentators, they're a boxer, very very good boxer, was almost immediately a very good boxer. A doesn't take his knowledge to the full advantage of as an announcer, I think, because he made a great salient point, which is I don't like Tyson's legs. He did, and so a true boxer watching and saying, I'm seeing how he's set up here, and this is not the stance of somebody who's going to continue to cause trouble. But then he just said it 47 more times, which I figured
Then he
out.
became fixated on Tyson biting his glove.
Yeah. And that was a little unusual. Although then there was this weird debate between,
Yeah.
stand-up joke guy and Roy Jones Jr. around, oh, I think that's nothing unusual. And it's like, no, that's kind of weird. I think the amount of times, and it was like, I don't know if the mouth guard wasn't fitting right or whatever, but
No, he so they interviewed him about it later. He does so, and I thought this. I was like, no, I think he bites his gloves. I think that's a thing, and it is. They showed like clips of him in different fights doing it. I think he was just doing it a lot, whereas he might have done it, once in a match or something before. But that is a thing, like a tick of his, where he bites the gloves
yeah.
or Evander Holyfield's ear.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say since he's not punching
Yeah,
anymore, since he kind of decided, well, there's enough of that. um uh and that gave more bite time, I guess. And so that's probably why because the gloves were always right there. They weren't ever being extended out towards
yeah.
uh this big bucket-headed bearded clown that we wanted to see him destroy. But we'll see on that. So I'm glad he didn't get hurt. Um I still think pretty respectable for a 60-year-old guy to last that long. Now Jake Paul say, well, I didn't want to hurt him and all that. And it's like I think after that first round, you were say, I'm not going to try and hurt him because if I get him mad and he hits me like that again, I'm not going to like it. But and in a rare moment of quasi respect, which I think was a little more virtue signaling than respect, Paul kind of gave him a bow towards the end, which totally confused Tyson. He's like, "What? What? You want to shake hand? I don't get it." And he's like, but his hand out, and Jake, I always shake your hands. Want everyone to look at me, bowing and showing my respect to you, and all that.
All
So
I thought when he did that was I was like, punch him.
it's like kaboom. That'd have been that big Tyson uppercut. Just Lord, that'd have been fantastic. Yeah, because the rules were the bell can't save the fighter. Um, that could have worked. Darn it, Mike. quit biting that glove. But yeah, so I'll give Netflix an F for the overall package in terms of prep and you know running a quasi professional execution of life. Now they're gonna, if you love that magic, and you're a big football fan, Thanksgiving's going to be a treat because they're doing the NFL games this year. I'm sure that'll go well. I think Jerry Jones had something to say about it, but his mic was dead, so I don't know what that was. So we'll see on that. But yeah, so each thought we kind of weigh in, share our thoughts. I guess this is probably bogged down on the issues. Maybe I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's our first sports show.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a Bug Panda show. We're talking sports like we do once every 100, so 500 episodes. So we'll do that. Cool. Anything else, sir?
No, I think that's it. I mean, I would say I'm sure we could both say that we were let down by the actual fight, the one that we tuned in for. The women's match was great though. The two middle matches were both really good. The women's match in particular. When the Irish lady started talking, I had no idea what she was saying. I
Yeah, we had people from Puerto Rico, Mexico, India, United States, and the person I had the hardest time understanding was the Irish person,
yeah,
who I believe was speaking a form of English. Maybe
it's that's what they say, but
I don't know.
I have no idea what that was.
I
People
needed
from
subtitles.
other countries were speaking perfect English, and the Irish woman who they speak English was was not. I don't know what that was. That maybe she was hit on the head too many times.
It's bashing into stuff right now. She's
Yeah. The
probably
match was
hurting some.
certainly not a disappointment, though. Her
No.
fight was excellent. Both of them did great. I was surprised, like everybody else, by the outcome. But again, I'm not familiar enough with the scoring process, so maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about there. I think we're all let down that Jake Paul's still alive. But I think we're all happy that Mike Tyson is still alive after seeing him, showing his age pretty early in that match. I think, like a lot of people, I kind of turned to like, wow, Mike Tyson's going to get hurt. And I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah, and his bank account's going to get a little lift here, so that's good. I think.
That's so that was the last thing I was going to say. When he was walking out, I wonder if that was more the look of like, well, I'm taking care of my kids and grandkids. That's
It's like, hey, it could do worse for 20 million, you know.
yeah.
So that, yeah, but so I'm glad for that he can uh, avoid some of the pitfalls of other athletes that make millions and then lose millions and then are in really bad straits. This should tide him over. I think he makes better decisions now. So just like you and I try and eke by on 20 million. For our pay-per-views, I think he'll be fine. He can also contact us for tips on how to
Yeah.
handle that. We've been able to make ends meet between $20 million paydays. So give us a ring, Mike. And if you'd like to hear us, talk negatively about Jake Paul in the future, I'd recommend subscribing to the Bog Panda YouTube channel. There's a good chance we'll work it in randomly on a regular basis. We'll see on that. But and be sure and listen to Hard No, the world's shortest podcast. Recently hit its 700th episode. So it's a lot.
It's more than 600.
Yeah, like double ish. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bog Panda.